Welcome back to our channel. Today we're uncovering the fascinating life story of Hollywood icon Louise Brooks. From her meteoric rise to fame and her time as a silver screen siren, to the personal struggles and scandals that marked her later years. We'll explore the highs and lows of her life, the relationships that shaped her, and the legacy she left behind. So, sit back and join us on this journey through the captivating and tumultuous world of Louise Brooks. Louise Brooks was an American actress and dancer who became a major symbol of the silent film era. Born on November 14, 1906 in Cherryvale, Kansas, Brooks had an early passion for dance, which she pursued in New York City by joining Dennis Shawn, a prominent dance company. Her iconic look, especially her sleek bob haircut, and her captivating screen presence quickly set her apart. Brooks rose to fame in Hollywood during the 1920s, where she became known for her roles in films such as Pandora's Box, 1929, and Diary of a Lost Girl, 1929. These performances, particularly under German director G.W. Pabst, cemented her legacy as a pioneering actress known for portraying complex, free-spirited women. Her bold, expressive acting style and modern beauty made her an enduring icon. Although her career was cut short, Brooks's later writings, especially her autobiographical work Lulu in Hollywood, brought renewed interest to her life and career. Today she is celebrated not only as an actress but as a cultural icon who challenged traditional roles, both in her life and on screen. In the 1940s, Louise Brooks vanished from Hollywood, but years later, a film historian managed to locate her, only to be heartbroken by what he discovered. From birth, Brooks had been surrounded by the arts. Her father, Leonard Brooks, was a lawyer with an impressive library, while her mother, Myra, was a skilled pianist with an intense love for music and literature. Immersed in such an environment, Louise quickly developed a craving for excitement and enjoyment. At just 9, Louise encountered a neighbor named Mr. Flowers, who, despite his gentle-sounding name, was anything but kind. He preyed on Louise, inflicting trauma that would deeply affect her. Later, Louise would refer to this painful episode as a root cause of her struggles to form genuine connections in her adult life. Louise's early experiences of betrayal and pain were shadows she would carry throughout her life. The trauma inflicted by Mr. Flowers created a profound distrust in others, and her struggle to form lasting connections can be seen in her roles on screen. Characters who often embodied vulnerability wrapped in defiance. Louise's life reflected the very essence of her performances, as she navigated an entertainment industry that mirrored her own emotional scars. In a way, her acting became a raw, unspoken expression of her inner world, one that captivated audiences yet distanced her from those closest to her. Though her mother captivated her children with the serene compositions of Debussy and Ravel, she also had a pragmatic side and was intent on instilling independence in her children. By age 10, Louise's mother had already recognized her natural talent for dance, seeing immense potential in her daughter's abilities. Louise's journey to stardom began with small performances, where her captivating presence quickly drew attention. At just 11, she was already delighting audiences with her performances at a local opera house. Her career took a major leap forward when she moved to New York City, leaving her small-town Kansas roots behind. Here, she joined Dennis Shawn, one of America's leading modern dance companies. During her second year with the company, Louise rose through the ranks, even earning a coveted role alongside Ted Shawn, one of the troupe's founders. As she honed her skills, her future seemed full of promise. However, Louise's journey with Dennis Shawn was complicated by her rivalry with Ruth St. Dennis, the company's other founder. Ruth viewed Louise as a privileged princess and eventually dismissed her in a humiliating scene in front of the other dancers, a memory that stayed with Louise for years. Despite the setback, Louise rebounded, landing a role as a chorus girl in George White's Scandals, a popular revue that launched the careers of other stars like Ray Bolger and the Three Stooges. This new opportunity propelled her career further, marking a fresh chapter in her journey to fame. By 1925, Louise had become a featured dancer in the Ziegfeld Follies, securing her status as a star showgirl. This rising fame didn't go unnoticed by Paramount Pictures producer Walter Wanger, who was determined to bring her under contract. Though professionally interested, Wanger also pursued her romantically despite being married. Paramount offered Louise a 5-year contract, ushering her into a new phase in her career. However, any dreams of immediate superstardom soon faded. During this period, Louise also caught the eye of Charlie Chaplin, who was then 36 and married, while she was only 18. Though their passionate affair was short-lived, it marked a memorable summer in Louise's life. She went on to star in A Girl in Every Port, where she played a seductive vamp. And it wasn't just her acting that left an impression. Her unique appearance, particularly her sleek bob haircut, sparked a nationwide trend as women across the country clamored to replicate her bold style. In the summer of 1926, Louise married film director Eddie Sutherland, yet her free-spirited nature made it difficult for her to settle into married life. Just a year later, she met millionaire George Marshall and found herself utterly captivated. However, Louise's appetite for thrill and adventure extended beyond just admiring attractive men, revealing a deeper pursuit of excitement that would continue to define her relationships and career choices. In 1928, Louise was cast in Beggars of Life, but her experience on set soon turned sour. After a brief affair with a stuntman, rumors circulated that she'd contracted a venereal disease. To make matters worse, the stuntman hinted that Louise had allegedly caught it from producer Jack Pickford, further tarnishing her reputation. Her co-star Richard Arlen, who was friends with Louise's husband, grew increasingly resentful as Louise's alleged unfaithfulness became widely known. This led to strained relationships on set, including with director William Wellman, who was known for prioritizing intense scenes over actor safety. In one scene, he insisted that Louise perform a dangerous stunt involving climbing onto a moving train, which nearly cost her her life. Louise's affairs, especially her ongoing relationship with George Marshall, eventually led her to divorce Eddie Sutherland. Heartbroken by her decision, Sutherland attempted to overdose on sleeping pills the night after their split, but fortunately, he survived. By 1929, Louise had become well acquainted with the wealthy and famous, notably entering into a scandalous relationship with Pepe Lederer, the niece of actress Marion Davies, who was romantically involved with media mogul William Randolph Hearst. Louise met Pippi at a social gathering, and the two began an intense romance. However, upon discovering Pippi's orientation, Hearst intervened by having her confined to a mental hospital under the guise of a supposed drug addiction. Just days after Pippi's arrival, Hearst's influence over her fate would continue to affect her life dramatically. She jumped from her hospital window, ending her life in a way that left Louise shattered, marking one of the darkest periods she would ever endure. Shortly afterward, Louise's dissatisfaction with Hollywood and life on the West Coast grew more pronounced. Paramount's refusal to grant her a raise was the final straw. George Marshall, at that point, offered her invaluable advice, painting an enticing picture of Europe and the career opportunities that awaited her there. Louise's relationship with George Marshall was more than just romance. His influence became a crucial turning point in her life. As he encouraged her to pursue a fresh start in Europe, Marshall embodied the allure of reinvention and escape, ideas that captivated Louise. However, her connection with Pepe Lederer, equally intense but far more fragile, exposed the instability and impermanence of life in the public eye. Pepe's tragic end served as a grim reminder of the price fame could exact. For Louise, these relationships weren't just passionate affairs. They were a painful lesson in the fleeting nature of connection, deepening her restlessness and her pursuit of freedom above all else. Her decision to leave for Europe was risky and rebellious. Hollywood insiders thought she was being foolish. Yet 30 years later, she credited that life-altering choice as the foundation of her legacy, beginning the moment Lise Brooks set foot on German soil. In 1929, Louise's career took an exhilarating turn as she arrived in a thriving German film industry that was beginning to rival Hollywood. This was her big break, and the film that would change everything was Pandora's Box. A provocative story, notable for one of the earliest on-screen portrayals of a lesbian character. Unlike her past film experiences, working on Pandora's Box felt like a dream. Louise felt she was treated with a level of respect and decency that she had never encountered in Hollywood. Director Georg Wilhelm Pabst cast her again later that same year in Diary of a Lost Girl, a role that was deeply emotional for her. To embody the character, she drew on traumatic memories of her own childhood assault, bringing painful experiences to the surface. Louise's approach to acting was ahead of its time. Much like today's actors, she favored subtlety, avoiding the exaggerated expressions typical of the era. While her restrained style met with criticism from some viewers, it became part of her unique appeal. Through her roles in Pabst's films, Louise gained international recognition. Despite the acclaim she was receiving, Louise began to feel restless once more. She had experienced all she wanted of Europe and felt it was time to move on. Pabst, however, urged her to stay in Germany and dedicate herself more seriously to her career. He admired her free-spirited nature but was concerned that her lack of commitment to her work would eventually lead her into trouble. Pabst understood how quickly someone like Louise could be cast aside by the ruthless entertainment industry if she wasn't careful. Still, Louise was determined to follow her instincts. Tired of Europe, she set her sights back on America. But in doing so, she would ultimately make choices that would severely undermine her career. Louise boldly refused to record sound retakes for her film, The Canary Murder Case, a decision that led studios to blacklist her, marking the start of her career's decline. As her fortunes waned, Louise began to grasp the fleeting nature of fame. Compounding her challenges, her tumultuous relationship with George Marshall also fell apart. Though Louise was deeply drawn to him, her infidelity remained unchecked, while Marshall, in contrast, had proposed to her several times, hoping to solidify their relationship. When he finally saw that her loyalty wouldn't come easily, he married actress Corinne Griffith, leaving Louise heartbroken. She later described Marshall as having a harsh side that surfaced behind closed doors, adding further complexity to their troubled romance. Louise's stubbornness continued to derail potential comebacks. Columbia Pictures offered her a chance to revive her career with a salary of $500 a week, but she missed the opportunity by refusing a screen test for a Western film, causing them to retract the offer. The few roles she did manage to secure gained little attention, and by 1932 her financial situation had deteriorated so drastically that she was forced to declare bankruptcy. To survive, she turned to the nightlife scene, dancing in clubs and occasionally securing minor roles, but nothing remotely close to the stardom she had once tasted. As Louise's fame faded, she found herself in an unforgiving world that rarely allowed fallen stars a second chance. Desperate to survive, she accepted work that was far from the glamour of Hollywood, taking roles in nightclubs and living off meager earnings. The allure of her former life remained just close enough to haunt her, amplifying her sense of failure. Becoming a courtesan for wealthy clients felt like a last painful compromise, a stark contrast to the life of fame and admiration she once enjoyed. These experiences weighed heavily on Louise, adding to her disillusionment and driving her into deeper isolation and self-reflection. Her despair concealed behind a fading facade. In 1938, Louise finally secured a role that had the potential to change her fortunes. After years of struggling, she was cast as the romantic lead opposite John Wayne in the Western Overland stage Raiders. For this role, she even traded her iconic bob for longer hair, making her nearly unrecognizable. Unfortunately for Louise, however, this wasn't the grand comeback she had hoped for. Despite her lead role, the film received little attention, and her presence went largely unnoticed. As the next decade approached, Louise found herself out of work entirely. Facing persistent unemployment, she decided to return to her hometown of Wichita, Kansas. Yet, fitting in proved difficult. The townspeople viewed her with a mix of curiosity and judgment, seeing her as a blend of success and failure that they couldn't quite understand. Before long, the restlessness returned, and she once again set her sights on New York City. Louise took on any job she could find. She worked as a radio actress, a gossip columnist, and even as a sales clerk. But between 1948 and 1953, she ventured into a line of work she had long been warned against. She became a courtesan, catering to wealthy clients. Eventually, an escort agency offered her regular work, but this new life quickly took a toll on her mental health. From actress to escort, Louise was painfully aware of how far she had fallen. Reflecting on this period, she admitted, "I found that the only well-paying career open to me as an unsuccessful actress of 36 was that of a call girl," and she began to toy with the idea of those little bottles filled with yellow sleeping pills. Isolated in a small New York apartment, she spiraled into deeper bouts of drinking and depression. Her once bright career faded into years of poverty and obscurity. Yet just as her story seemed to end, a French film historian named Henri Langlois rediscovered her films and saw something extraordinary in her work. In 1955, film curator James Card worked to bring Louise Brooks back into the spotlight, considering her one of the all-time greats, even ranking her above some of her more successful peers. Card finally tracked her down in New York City and was saddened to find the former star living in reclusive conditions. Determined to help, he offered her a fresh start by inviting her to move to Rochester, New York, where she could reflect on her past career and write about her experiences. This new chapter revitalized Louise, leading her to write insightful essays for film magazines. When Henri Langlois and James Card brought her back into the spotlight, Louise experienced a bittersweet sense of redemption. Langlois' admiration for her work, ranking her among the true greats, allowed Louise to finally recognize her own artistic value, something she had long doubted. Writing Lulu in Hollywood became her way of reinterpreting her life story, confronting the shadows of her past while reclaiming her identity. In those late years, Louise found herself not only revived in the public eye, but also in her own spirit. Her words poured out with the clarity and resilience of someone who had lived deeply and at last had come to terms with herself. Her talent as a writer surprised many, and in 1982, she even published her book, Lulu in Hollywood, which further showcased her perspective on Hollywood's golden age. Despite this promising turn in her later years, Louise remained haunted by her turbulent relationships, and the love she felt was always out of reach. Louise often reflected that she had never truly loved anyone she'd been with, feeling a persistent inability to connect deeply. This sense of loneliness accompanied her until the end of her life. In her later years, she battled health issues, including osteoarthritis and empyema, and ultimately passed away at 78 after a heart attack. Louise once confessed that she viewed her life, despite its flashes of promise, as something of a failure, as nothing seemed to turn out as she had hoped. Thank you for joining us on this in-depth look at Louise Brooks's life, a story of brilliance and heartbreak in Hollywood's golden age. Despite her struggles, Louise's unique talent and spirit continue to captivate audiences, proving that her legacy endures. Even decades after her death, she continues to captivate audiences not just for her beauty, but for her unapologetic approach to life, challenging conventions in both her career and personal choices. Louise's life, with all its highs and lows, left a lasting impact on cinema and on those who admire her courage to pursue freedom, even at great personal cost. Today, her story inspires a new generation to embrace individuality and strength, proving that her spirit endures beyond the silver screen. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest content. We'll see you next time.